She is so bold. She even sat her day on the statue of the former king and said it was because there were too many people and she couldn't see from behind. The prince, who grew up in the palace, has never met such a real girl before, was instantly attracted by her. Cinderella is just a commoner. After the ceremony ended, she left the square under the oppression of her stepmother and sisters. Cinderella can only live in the basement. However, she transformed the basement into a clothing studio, struggled for her dream. At the weekly market, Cinderella would go to sell the dresses she designed. But in that era, a woman showing herself in public would only attract the ridicule of others. One day the prince disguised himself and went out to look for the girl he had been thinking about. Coincidentally, at the market, he saw Cinderella, who was selling clothes. Hearing that everyone around was laughing at her, the prince hurriedly spoke out to comfort. "This dress is really great." This brought the two closer. After some conversation, the prince bought this dress. At the same time, the guards in the palace issued an announcement. The king will hold a grand party to choose a concubine for the prince. The girls below were all extremely excited, but Cinderella wasn't moved. She only has her career in her heart, which made the prince very anxious. He immediately stepped forward to warn Leo. There are guests from all over the world at the ball. Their minds are open and can be introduced as clients. Upon hearing that it would help her career, Cinderella happily agreed. After she returned to the basement, after several days of hard work, finally designed the most satisfactory work. Looking at the glamorous sister in front of her, the sister is very depressed. The high-end costume made on her body suddenly doesn't smell good. Cinderella wants to go to the party, was ruthlessly refused by the stepmother. Not only that, but also spilled ink on the dress. Cinderella was extremely sad, left the room silently by herself. But just then, in the basement, a box beside the sewing machine emitted light. A butterfly flew out from it. He came to the courtyard outside the house, landed on Cinderella. Then the butterfly spread its wings and danced, and something incredible happened to its body. The godfather waved the magic wand in his hand, gently waved at Cinderella. A suit set emerged, but obviously it's not suitable for the party. The godfather waved the magic wand again. Floating dots of starlight emerged. The starlight floated to the basement, selected the most outstanding design drawing of Cinderella. The drawing fluttered in the wind, came to the hand of the godfather. Cinderella shook her head after seeing it. This is just a concept drawing and can't be realized at all. But the godfather doesn't think so. Waved the magic wand in his hand again. Floating dots of starlight floated behind the locust tree. The petals of the locust tree fluttered with the wind and surrounded Cinderella. He extended his arm. White lace appeared out of thin air. Then the skirt. Cinderella began to enjoy the whole transformation process. As the godfather put down his arm, a gorgeous dress was already worn on the girl. The girl stomped her feet happily. But now there is still one important thing missing. A brand new pair of crystal shoes appeared on her feet. Everything is ready. Next is the means of transportation. The godfather waved the magic wand. A container box soared into the air, became a gorgeous carriage. Then came to the three mice. "You are the drivers." As the magic light fell, the mice turned into three strong men. The party is about to begin. It's time to set off for the palace. Before leaving, the godfather warned the girl, "The magic will expire at midnight. Be sure to leave early then." With the acceleration of the magic carriage, Cinderella arrived at the party in time. At the party, the girl met the noblewoman. She really appreciated Cinderella's dress. After learning that it was designed by herself, the noblewoman hoped to have further cooperation, and an appointment was made to meet the next afternoon. There is such a big game just at the beginning of the party. Cinderella is very happy. She looked towards the center of the stage. The prince is giving a passionate speech. She wanted to go down and ask what's going on, but accidentally knocked over the instrument. This directly became the focus of the whole audience. The prince saw, this is the girl he likes. He pulled the girl to the center of the stage, called up Princess Gwen. The princess unwrapped the cloak, and it was exactly Cinderella's one. Seeing that the prince was so serious about her career, she agreed to the invitation to dance a dance. As the music sounded, the prince and the two danced gracefully on the stage. In this atmosphere, there is a kind of inexplicable affection emerging between the two. After a dance, taking advantage of Cinderella still being confused, the prince said to find a place to talk alone. The girl readily agreed. They came to the piano room. The prince played a song expressing love. Then the two sat in front of the piano, expressing their love for each other. But after hearing that she would have to be a housewife after marriage, Cinderella's face changed. The first first thing she thought of was her design career. That's the dream of a lifetime. However, life in the palace won't allow her to be a tailor. Cinderella got up and left the prince's side. Rather than being restricted in the basement by her stepmother, she is more reluctant to be confined in the palace. She has a dream. She wants to be an independent woman. The two hugged each other with tears in their eyes, wanting to do the final kiss goodbye. But just then, the bell of midnight rang. The girl fled in a hurry. The clothes on her body began to dissipate. At this time, the king announced that the person the prince chose was her. The surrounding crowd instantly surrounded. Seeing that the magic was about to fail, she begged the prince to let her leave, although not knowing why. But the prince still helped him evacuate the crowd. Cinderella lifts her skirt and leaves quickly, but she was wearing crystal shoes, got on the carriage at the last moment. At this time, the spell couldn't hold on anymore. The coachman returned to the appearance of a mouse. Cinderella had to drive the carriage herself, but then the carriage couldn't hold on either. The girl fell heavily to the ground. She returned to the basement, began to prepare for the negotiation tomorrow. At this time, the stepmother attended the party, suddenly came to the basement. Looking at the crystal shoe on the ground, she knew who the prince had chosen. The stepmother begged her daughter to definitely agree to the prince's request, but Cinderella's heart is only filled with her dream. Looking at the design drawings all over the wall, the stepmother couldn't help but tell her own past. When she was young, she loved playing the piano very much, regarded it as the dream of a lifetime. But when she returned from further study at the conservatory, her husband had already left her. Hearing what the stepmother said, Cinderella was very touched, but still couldn't shake her pursuit of the dream. The stepmother didn't say much seeing this. Since you don't agree, then marry Thomas in the town. The next morning, the stepmother took Cinderella, prepared to go to the church to complete the wedding with Thomas. Fortunately, with the help of the little mice, the girl found the opportunity to jump off the carriage. She just wants to rush to the market now to complete the negotiation with the noblewoman. At the same time, on the other side, the king persuaded his son, when love comes, be brave to pursue. Then the prince led the guards, began to look for the beloved girl door to door. After knocking on countless doors, the prince suddenly thought of a place, the market where they first met. In this way, on the road of Cinderella's pursuit of her dream, the two met. The prince told the girl he is willing to give up inheriting the throne just to be a companion on the road of her pursuit of the dream. The two people who love each other finally kiss together, but now is not the time to linger. The noblewoman is still waiting for the girl at the market. Fortunately, there is still time. Looking at the unique design drawings in front of her, the noblewoman really appreciated it and fully adopted the girl's creativity. After the dream was realized, love also became smooth. The prince brought the girl to meet the king. They got the approval of the father king and the mother queen. They didn't blame the son for giving up the throne. The country was handed over to the little daughter, Princess Gwen, and Cinderella and the prince will also walk out of their own lives on. Sally called out pig in her sleep. This was a tall building. Sally screamed in horror for the bed to stop, but the big bed ignored her and broke through the window directly. The legs of the bed could extend infinitely and took Sally directly out of the tall building. She came to the crossroads, looking at the traffic without affecting the passing vehicles at all. It wasn't long before the big bed brought Sally to the dock and then jumped straight into the sea. As fish were jumping around, soon Sally saw a lighthouse. This place was very familiar to her because this was where she and her father used to live. And one day when she just fell asleep, there was a sudden bad weather. The extreme cold frowned the glass. It also woke Sally up. She didn't know what was happening. Hastily went downstairs to look for her father. However, a gust of wind blew open the door to the room. As soon as Sally walked out of the door, a huge wave knocked down the lighthouse. She was knocked into the sea. Then there was a huge vortex. She was sucked into it in the middle of shouting. In the water, her father was swimming towards her. She reached out her hand to pull her father. A black cloud took him away. Sally suddenly woke up from her nightmare. She hurriedly got up to look for her father, but what awaited her was her father's tragic death. With the help of her father's colleagues, she was taken to her uncle's house in the big city. That night, she returned to the lighthouse in her dream, but she didn't see her father, only met a strange man rummaging for something. The man's name was Kevin and he was a friend of her father's. He was looking for a map. Seeing that Sally wandered out of the window, Sally woke up from her sleep, but the scene in the dream was not forgotten, so she looked in the box. Unexpectedly, she really found the map that Kevin had set in the photo frame. Sally was suddenly excited. After getting ready the things she needed, she went to the basement and hung a hammock in a hidden place, then lay on it and looked at the photo of her and her father. Slowly closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she had already arrived at the lighthouse. She found Kevin and took out the map. Kevin saw that she had a map and decided to take her on an adventure. The two then walked into the connection door of the dream. This was the dream of a repressed young girl. She was a nun in real society, and in the dream, She was a seductive star and wanted to arrest the two of them. At a critical moment, a cloud of black smoke suddenly attacked. Kevin carried Sally on his back and ran away at the confusion. His time. Kevin was very strange. Why did the black smoke keep chasing after him? Sally suddenly remembered that she had met the cloud of black smoke before because her father was taken away by them. Kevin then realized this nightmare would follow the smell of fear all the time. Sally's body dissipated at this moment. She woke up from the dream. When she got home in the evening, she couldn't wait to dream again. This time she went directly to the square, but Sally insisted on finding the magic bead and reuniting with her father. Kevin couldn't bear to refuse, so it took her to climb the garbage truck because the connection door to the next dream was in the cab of this vehicle. When Kevin accidentally turned sideways, he saw the police chasing after him. He hurriedly threw Sally into the garbage. Fortunately, he used the edges and corners on the car to cut the rope. After getting rid of the police, he forced open the door of the carriage and climbed into the cab with Sally. Unexpectedly, the driver was a child. Kevin asked him to speed up. The little boy stepped on the accelerator directly to the end. Kevin wanted to open the connecting door below, but pinned to the spot. The two were then thrown into prison. Kevin was a little depressed because he had been in the dream for too long that he even forgot who he really was. He wanted to get the magic bead so that he could remember who he was. He also wanted to go back to reality now. It wasn't long before Sally was taken away by the police and left alone Kevin. The police found out Sally's background. He just wanted to find his dead father in his dream, so he broke into other people's dreams with Kevin to get a magic bead. Through making a wish to see his father, the police gave Sally two choices. One was to stay in prison until she died of old age. The other was to learn a lesson, let you leave here. At the same time, the police advised Sally that as long as it was a dream, sooner or later, you will wake up. If you don't look forward, then the nightmare will find you and destroy you. Finally, he told Sally, there is no magic bead that can make a wish here, so please go back to where you belong. Sally woke up suddenly in her sleep. She was very sad that she didn't find her father in her dream, so she came to her uncle. Seeing that she was unhappy, her uncle brought a box, took out the video camera that used to record videos of him and his brother when they were young. However, his uncle's outfit was exactly the same as Kevin's in the dream. The uncle said that he often met his brother in his dreams and then go on an adventure together. But since his brother died, he hasn't seen his brother again and he no longer remembers his dreams. She borrowed her uncle's bead that could make a wish. They gritted their teeth and walked into the nightmare sea. It was a desolate place here. It was also Sally's biggest fear in her heart. Before entering the nightmare sea, Sally told Kevin, in fact, you are my uncle. However, Kevin did not want to accept the reality. At this moment, he didn't want to enter the dangerous nightmare sea again, so he woke up Sally. Because of this, she and her uncle also had a falling out, so she was sad and got on her uncle's boat, ready to go back to the lighthouse where she used to live with her father. However, just when the waves suddenly became stronger, the doll bead was washed into the water. She reached out to catch it, but was knocked unconscious by the mast. When she woke up, the body had already come to the nightmare sea. A light at the bottom of the sea caught her attention, so she swam towards that place. She turned on the flashlight and looked around. Finally, under the deck of a small boat, found a lot of magic beads, so she reached out to grab it. However, the arm was not long enough. With the help of the little pig, she finally got a magic bead. When she was about to make a wish, the nightmare suddenly came, as if it wanted to swallow him in one bite. At this time, Kevin drove the plane to break up the nightmare. It turned out that he met a pilot in his dream, learning that Sally had gone to the dream sea alone. So he knocked out the pilot, drove the plane, and rescued Sally. However, the nightmare followed them closely like black smoke and swallowed the tail of the plane. The out-of-control plane just crashed into the connection door of the next dream. They quickly jumped into the toilet. The nightmares behind them also caught up. Fortunately, they had already arrived at the garbage truck at this time. The little boy drove the vehicle directly into the nun's dream. The two got out of the car and ran towards the connection door. But when they were about to return to the lighthouse, Sally felt dizzy and couldn't walk. It turned out that in the real world, the uncle found that she was missing, so he found someone to prepare to rescue her, and Sally was in danger at this time. In the dream, she was the same. Kevin had to pick her up and run towards the connection door. As soon as he got to the door, Sally found that the magic bead had fallen, but at this time the nightmare had caught up. Kevin quickly ran back, but just as he got the magic bead, the nightmare wrapped him up. At the moment when he was about to be swallowed, Kevin threw the magic bead in his hand to Sally. Looking at the disappearing Kevin, Sally gave up looking for her father, but chose to rescue Kevin, so she made a wish on the magic bead to wake Kevin up. A strong energy wave knocked her down. In reality, the uncle suddenly woke up on the rescue boat. He finally remembered the dream, and at this time, Sally also fell into the sea. The uncle saw it and jumped into the water at the first time, rescued Sally. At this time, Sally was still in the dream phase, the nightmares. Did not choose to escape, but stood up to fight. She had forgotten her floating away with the wind. The last hope of seeing her father was dashed. At this time, the police suddenly walked out of the lighthouse. This time he didn't come to arrest people, but to remind Sally to touch the little pig's stomach. Unexpectedly, the little pig spat out another magic bead under the stroking, so Sally immediately made a wish. Soon her father appeared in front of her. She quickly hugged her father, pouring out his thoughts. The two recalled the past together, chatting on the bed together. Dad told his daughter, "Don't sleep in the dream. Real life is waiting for you. It would be a pity if you missed it." Sally knew that her father wanted her to go back, so she said goodbye to him for the last time. In the real world, after being rescued with all her efforts, Sally finally woke up. At this moment, the uncle's taut heart finally eased. He hugged Sally tightly like a child. A zombie suddenly pounced on Sarah. Sarah kicked the zombie to the ground. Then she picked up the flowers and started smashing them crazily on the zombie. However, these attacks had no effect on the zombie at all. The man behind desperately hugged the zombie. Finally, unfortunately, he was bitten by the zombie and pooed out to the ground and stopped breathing. Sarah inserted an iron bar into the zombie's shoulder and then ran away desperately. Sarah saw a man and thought she met her savior. Little did she know that the man had also turned into a zombie. Two zombies besieged Sarah's car, but Sarah found that she didn't have the car key. The zombie fetched a brick, smashed the glass, and stuck its head in to catch Sarah. In a critical moment, Sarah pulled the handbrake to make the car reverse, finally got rid of the zombies. However, the car also crashed into a big tree. Sarah kept running along the woods and came to a household. Sarah shouted, but no one answered. Apparently, no one was at home. At this time, blood seeped from the ceiling and dropped on Sarah's face. A fat zombie fell from the second floor and crashed onto Sarah. Sarah was still in shock, found that another zombie was guarding at the door. A zombie came crashing towards her, but a car was coming behind the zombie. The car hit the zombie away. It was Kevin who got off the car. However, Sarah just escaped from the house. Kevin took her back to the house and locked the door. Kevin saw the zombie and directly kicked it away, and then used a frying pan and then locked the zombie outside the door. Sarah also found a weapon. The fat zombie appeared behind and launched a sneak attack. Sarah sensed the crisis, turned around, and gave the fat zombie 2 sticks. The zombie finally died under Sarah's fierce beating. Kevin indicated that the car was almost out of gas. They couldn't break down in the middle of nowhere, so they could only stay in the house and wait for rescue. The thoughtful Sarah covered the fat zombie with a shroud. Then the two threw the fat zombie outside the door. Kevin wanted to go to the second floor to see if there was a shotgun. The man was bitten off his arm by the zombie. Didn't want to turn into a zombie, so he shot himself. Kevin endured the nausea and took the shotgun from the man. At this time, the door behind Sarah opened. Scared Sarah shouted for help. It turned out to be the surviving humans. They had been hiding in the basement. Hearing the commotion upstairs, they came out. In the dead of night, several people saw a group of zombies walking towards here. The man hid in the basement. The others guarded on the first floor and reinforced the doors and windows to prevent the zombies from entering. Sarah found that the weakness of the zombies was their slow movement. They could even run past the zombies without being caught up. Sarah wanted to escape, while the others preferred to stay in the house. A big zombie hand reached in, almost scratched the man. Kevin needed to go to the basement to get more wood to seal the doors and windows. Sam refused to open the door because he was angry with Kevin. A zombie broke the window and was about to attack Kevin. Sarah aimed at the zombie, but was afraid of accidentally shooting Kevin, so she went up with Kevin to hold the board, but couldn't resist the great strength of the zombie. Then Sarah directly used the shotgun, shot at the back of the zombie's head. The zombies around her then noise and came. They were no different from being trapped in a jug in this house. Sarah found the zombie that killed her brother, shot it directly to avenge her brother. The woman found a bunch of keys from the zombie's pocket. Several people got ready and opened the door and ran to the car. Kevin stood outside the door, attracted the attention of a large number of zombies with a torch. The two drove the car and fled towards the gas station. Kevin didn't catch up at the last second. The car was thrown aside by the roadside. The woman didn't care about Kevin's life or death, drove directly to the gas station. The man found that none of his keys could unlock the lock of the gas gun. The man simply shot, caused an explosion at the gas station. The car was destroyed and people died. Now there was no escape to left. Kevin fought with several big zombies. When the woman returned to the basement to take care of her daughter, she found that the person was gone. The daughter had already turned into a zombie and walked towards the mother, opened her big mouth and directly ate the mother. Kevin returned to the house unharmed. Sam snatched Sarah's gun, resulting in Sarah being caught by the zombie. Kevin was locked outside the door and no one opened the door for him. Sarah pushed Sam into the zombie's hands, left the shotgun to him. After Sam broke free from the zombie's grasp, he fired several shots but did no damage. Sarah heard Kevin's cry for help and let him in. The two desperately blocked the zombies, but Sam was leisurely loading bullets aside. At this time, Sam found that her daughter had turned into a zombie. Couldn't bear to shoot. Kevin wanted to shoot but was shot by Sam. Sarah also got a pistol to shoot the zombies. Kevin hit Sam at a critical moment and saved Sarah. The two men shot at each other one shot at a time. Kevin was seriously injured and asked Sarah to leave quickly. Sam locked himself in the attic. A large number of zombies broke into the house. Kevin was forced to the basement by the zombies. Sarah walked out and found that the car had exploded. A group of zombies were eating human flesh. Even more ridiculously, a woman holding a baby had also turned into a zombie. Sarah shot and killed the zombies. However, there was still a zombie in the basement. Kevin could only kill it with tears in his eyes. He then found that the key to the gas station was in the basement. Kevin laughed wryly. Sarah was shot as a zombie, resulting in her being scared by the horrible zombies. Sarah was taken to the surviving human settlement. She was surprised to find that here, people actually use zombies as toys. There was no sense of tension in the doomsday survival at all. There were also some zombies hung on trees. Let a group of men practice shooting. Sarah returned to the house to look for Kevin. Unfortunately, Kevin finally turned into a zombie and was shot and killed mercilessly. However, the disgusting Sam actually hid in the attic and survived. Sarah said that although you are a human, but more disgusting than a zombie, sometimes humans are as crazy as zombies. A woman was taking a bath when she suddenly felt a sharp pain on her back. When she looked in the mirror, she found a conspicuous bruise on her back. She panicked and went to the computer to look through the novel she wrote. There were several extra pages for no reason. The last sentence described that the heroine Andy was left with a dazzling scar on her back by her husband. This made the woman think deeply and be scared. Xiaola became famous because of a best-selling book. However, at the signing ceremony of her second new book, she embarrassedly found that not a single copy of her new book could be sold. When the fans lined up to ask for signatures, they took out the best-selling book that the author Xiaola once had. Because the new book couldn't resonate with the readers, its reputation plummeted. The editor took the opportunity to persuade him to write a sequel. After all, Xiaola still has a huge mortgage to pay off. Xiaola refused the editor's proposal without hesitation. In fact, Xiaola encountered a supernatural event when writing the novel. The best-selling book tells about a female lead named Andy. After getting married for 2 months, she found out that her husband has abusive and controlling tendencies. Then Andy was locked in the basement, suffered brutal abuse. After Xiaola was typing as usual for 10 days, she was suddenly very sleepy. When Xiaola woke up, she found that her book had already been written for 10 pages, described in detail where Andy was abused by her husband. Then Xiaola found herself aching all over as if she felt Andy's pain. At first, he didn't pay attention, but when Xiaola was writing with that pen, she just felt her head go blank. After realizing it, he had already written the plot of Andy being slapped on the left face, so Xiaola also felt a sharp pain on her left cheek. Originally, Xiaola thought it was because she was too immersed in writing, having to close in emotional connection, something that can't feel what the characters feel in the room. So Xiaola decided to give some happy things to the characters in her pen. When Xiaola was about to finish writing, but because she was a little weak until she didn't write the ending, Xiaola decided to give up torturing Andy, arranged for her to accept the fate of being permanently shrunk in the basement. The novel dominated the bestseller list for 7 months. Xiaola was therefore very excited. However, the new book's failure to sell and the pressure of the mortgage let Xiaola's life fall into the trough again, so she decided to adopt the editor's suggestion, begin to create the sequel to the best-selling book. The editor was therefore very generous, gave Xiaola an advance payment. Couldn't think of a good opening for a long time. Xiaola used the small tool on the left to hypnotize herself. When she woke up again, she was going to take a bath in the bathtub. When relaxing, she only felt a sharp pain on her back. When Xiaola looked in the mirror, she found a conspicuous scar on her back. Xiaola couldn't wait to come to the computer. When she came back, she found that the sequel had been written to page 29, described that the heroine Andy was left with a dazzling scar on her back by her husband. Xiaola found the editor. She wanted to cancel the writing of the sequel. The editor didn't get angry. Instead, encouraged Xiaola to keep working hard. So the editor casually grabbed a staff member to evaluate Xiaola's sequel and took the opportunity to urge Xiaola to update quickly. Xiaola was speechless by what the editor said, but thinking of her own strange experience, so she decided to live stream her writing process and told the editor to remind her in time if any abnormality was found. Xiaola turned on the hypnotic tool. Originally, he had no idea at all. Suddenly raised his head high. Both eyes rolled up, showing only the whites of the eyes, but his hands were typing quickly on the keyboard. When the plot was written to the point where the husband was choking Andy's neck, there was also a pinch mark on Xiaola's neck. The editor ringing of the phone didn't wake Xiaola, but instead guided her soul into Andy's body. After Xiaola opened her eyes, she found herself in the basement. After the husband angrily turned and left, The daughter carefully threw herself into his arms. Suddenly Xiaola was woken up by the editor, who came in a hurry. After regaining her senses, Xiaola immediately opened her manuscript. Sure enough, she found that there were 10 more pages of plot boundaries. After learning about Xiaola's secret, the editor persuaded her not to write again, but to write other manuscripts. Xiaola was suspicious because of the immersive feeling. She thinks Andy is real. The story described in the play may be happening. The editor thought Xiaola was too involved in the drama, advised her not to get involved in this matter. Xiaola was unwilling to stand by. In order to get more information about Andy, she started the hypnotic creation again and entered Andy's body again. The daughter, Asti, curiously asked about the outside world. She doesn't understand, but she found that the ring given to her by her husband was missing, and she immediately started to look for it nervously. But the husband came over at this time. The other party found that Andy's ring was gone, immediately became angry. He directly knocked Andy to the ground. Even Xiaola, as a bystander, couldn't stand it. Under Xiaola's influence, Andy picked up a pen and stabbed the back of the husband's hand, but it was met with an even more violent blow from the husband. But after Xiaola woke up, he was covered with bruises all over his body. The manuscript has several more pages of the plot. Even so, Xiaola still refused to stop. This time she begged the editor to sit by and supervise herself, even if there was a life-threatening danger. This time Xiaola decided to control Andy. To see clearly his face through the water's reflection, Xiaola was surprised to find Andy was exactly the same as herself. So Xiaola found her parents. When asking if she had a twin sister, the parents admitted that Xiaola did have a twin sister. Because the family was very difficult at that time, they therefore gave away a daughter. Xiaola was also almost sent away. Xiaola became even more determined to find Andy. With the help of the boundary, Xiaola entered Andy's body again, as her daughter had a high fever and didn't subside, knocked at the entrance of the basement. After a while, the husband came down. He knew it was the daughter who was ill and didn't take it seriously. Thought the daughter would get better after taking the medicine. Andy was worried about the safety of her daughter, then insulted the husband as a devil. Sure enough, he suffered another brutal beating. Under Xiaola's influence, Andy summoned up the courage to grab the husband's hands. Under Andy's struggle, the husband suddenly felt a little uncomfortable and hurriedly left the basement. Xiaola found out through the badge left by the domestic abuser that the other party was an employee of a state-owned enterprise. Xiaola and the editor quickly locked a staff member named Kevin through the employee list of the state-owned enterprise and found Kevin's address through the pictures he shared. It takes 30 minutes to get from the current location to Kevin's home. Xiaola was worried that her sister would be killed by the man who went away and came back again. Xiaola successfully hypnotized herself and re-entered Andy's body. Kevin had already sensed Andy's abnormality, so when he returned to the basement again with a hammer, Xiaola controlled Andy's body, warned the other party they had already reached the destination. Xiaola immediately burst into the house nervously. When Kevin's family came to open the door, Xiaola broke in directly. When Kevin walked to the study to confront, the editor took out a pistol and threatened Kevin not to move. Xiaola took the opportunity to break into the study and find the entrance of the basement. She couldn't wait to walk in, found Andy hiding on the ground. Xiaola has Andy in her arms. The other party didn't feel shocked when seeing Xiaola's face that was exactly the same as hers. It turned out that Andy and Xiaola often dreamed of each other. She always thought Xiaola was her fantasy. Before Andy died, revealed the reason why she didn't dare to go out. Xiaola took the daughter out. Kevin didn't stop and let the three leave. Xiaola decided to take the child far away and live a brand new life. Before that, when Xiaola reported to the police, she found out that his home was quite different. This man is a loser. He can't outrun an 80-year-old man. Even a 300-pound woman can easily beat him. One day, an accident happened. He was given an urgent mission. All his teammates were on vacation, but he was the only one there. He had to drive himself there. While calling for backup, he almost hit a sea lion. Luckily, he was able to avoid it, but he drove the car off a cliff. By nightfall, someone had quietly dragged the man away. The man was a doctor, but his assistants were all animals. After a day of transplanting animal organs, he came back to life. The man came home to take a shower. Then shakes himself off like a dog right out of the shower. He doesn't realize he's been transformed. Then he goes out for a run and easily outruns the old man. He met a horse on the road, even ran with a horse race. In the end, he was so focused on the man that he didn't see what was in front of him that he got hung up on a tree. The man ran into a woman he liked. He wanted to chat, but was attracted by the dog ball next to him. Out of animal instinct, Uncle threw out a frisbee. He rushed straight out. The man bites the dog's frisbee. Actually gotten a woman's heart through this. This girl is sitting on the lake, thinking about something. Next moment, The son is so have a lovely singing voice. In the morning, the girl was too nervous in the classroom. The teacher asked each of them to sing happy birthday with their own interpretation. But the girl was too timid to show. She ran out because she was born into a different family. The whole family was deaf and mute except for her. Her family was in the fishing industry, so she had to get up at 3 every day. Then they go fishing together and help them communicate with the merchants. That's why she smells like fish. She was often ridiculed and isolated by her classmates. When faced with a boy she liked, she couldn't even talk to the boy she liked. The next day in class, the teacher deliberately called the girl out. This time she had the courage to sing, but it wasn't enough for the teacher, so the teacher taught them to use abdominal breathing, the way a dog breathes. In this process, the girl let go completely. She sang her heart, "Prove Yourself." The teacher suggested that the girl enroll in Berkeley. The school offered a scholarship so the girl wouldn't have to worry. With such a talent, the teacher was willing to give her free tutoring. The teacher left the girl alone with a boy who happened to be her crush. They were asked to rehearse for a love song duet in a month's time. That day, the girl's house was empty. She brought the boy home to practice, but then her family suddenly came home. The girl was a bit embarrassed, so she asked the man to leave. But it was what happened next that sent a chill down his spine. The parents' situation was spread to the school. The students were talking about her. When the boy saw her, he went after her. They had a big fight and parted ways. She went to her teacher's house to study, but she wasn't getting anywhere. The teacher said something, so she told the girl to shout to vent her frustration. What she didn't realize was that there was more trouble to come. This older man was gesturing with his hands in an agitated manner. Then he asked his daughter to translate. His speech was supported by the fishermen. They'll be free and clear of management, but they're deaf and dumb. The only able-bodied girl is the key figure. Pressure from her family left her no time to study, so she was late for class every day. The teacher thought she had a problem with her attitude. The teacher asked the girl to choose between her dream and her family. For the next few days, the girl didn't go help. Unfortunately, the father was caught by the marine police because the boat was equipped with at least one person who could communicate. Faced with such a situation, they put the blame on their daughter. At night, the mother came to her reluctant, explained that she didn't leave her behind out of selfishness. It was more of a fear. They couldn't hear the girl singing. They were more afraid of the girl's failure and frustration. The girl realized how difficult it was for her parents. In this moment, they both unraveled their feelings for each other. Do deaf people listen to concerts? The answer is yes, because it's their daughter up there. She shines on the stage. The audience sway to the rhythm. They look at the people around them. Because they can't hear anything, they can only guess by the movements of others. Everyone around them is cheering, and their parents applauded. At night, when they returned home, father and daughter went outside. The father also wanted to feel the charm of music. The father put his hand on the girl's throat, feeling the vibration of the vocal cords. The father's eyes grew red with tears, holding his daughter tightly. The next day, they rushed to bring the girl to the Berkeley audition. The girl was very nervous on stage. The girl's teacher came in to accompany her, but she was still not good enough. Just then, her family snuck in. The girl finally gave it her all and used sign language to express. Her parents as if could hear her singing. They smiled. Without a doubt, she got into Berkeley College of Music, and she left with her parents' blessing. This woman always feels that there is someone staring at her when taking a bath. When she turns her head to check, the man in the hood has already disappeared. After Aliyah cleaned up, she blew her hair. Suddenly she found that the power in the home was cut off, and she could only stop blowing her hair. At this time, there was a noise coming from outside. Aliyah groped to the living room with the help of the mobile phone lighting. Suddenly, there was another noise from the closet. Aliyah opened the row of closets in front of her one by one to find the sound source. Until she found the last closet, Aliyah discovered the circuit breaker switch inside. When she got up, she accidentally dropped her mobile phone on the ground. Aliyah hurriedly bent over to pick it up after she just got the phone. Suddenly, she found a masked man behind her. Aliyah was so scared that she hid in the utility room on the second floor. When she was praying in a state of panic, suddenly the door was opened from the outside. She thought she was doomed. When she saw Ryan's face, she immediately dropped tears helplessly. Under Ryan's patient comfort, Aliyah regained her composure. She led Ryan to find the circuit breaker, and Ryan gently pushed it up, and the room became bright again. Aliyah hurriedly described the scene of the masked men she encountered. Ryan thought Aliyah was seeing things and didn't take this matter to heart. Suddenly, the door was knocked again. Ryan directly opened the door. He found the girl not far away and was completely angry after thinking that the other party intended to play a prank. So Ryan ran to the girl and swore, and then hurriedly comforted Elia to go back to the house to eat hamburgers. Because Ryan ate so unseemly and his face was covered with sauce, Elia couldn't bear it and waited for her. However, after a while, she found that bright red liquid was splattered everywhere. Ryan also noticed the abnormality at this time. The two lovers tacitly looked up. Suddenly, they found a dead bird hanging on the lamp. After Ryan realized the danger, quickly asked Elia to close the doors and windows with him. Suddenly, a hole was split in the wooden door by an axe. The men in the hood just looked at the couple from the gap. The two immediately realized the danger and hurriedly hid upstairs. The men in the hood quickly opened the door. At this time, the couple hid in the bedroom and blocked the door with a heavy cabinet. As the two masked men in the room also started to come out and move around as the man in the hood broke in. Under the horrified gaze of the couple, the man in the hood split the door with an axe, but didn't break in. There was also the sound of the door closing downstairs. The two thought the other party had left, so they discussed to escape here by motorcycle. The two tiptoed down the stairs. Ryan found his mobile phone, but found that it had been smashed. After that, he hurriedly threw down the mobile phone, let Elia out of the house. When the two approached the motorcycle, unexpectedly, the motorcycle exploded on the spot. Through the firelight, they saw the man in the hood with an axe not far away, walking towards them. The two hurriedly hid in the bathroom. The other party obviously also enjoyed the process of hunting and was not in a hurry to deal with them. Ryan used this breathing time to find a knife. Elia immediately snatched it and pried open the mesh on the side. They slowly climbed into the pipe filled with dust. In order to prevent scaring the snake, Elia, enduring her fear of the rats, and signaled Ryan to keep calm and pointed to the rat that had already climbed onto Ryan's shoulder. Ryan endured the discomfort and shook it off. However, after a while, because Elia's palm was pierced through by a nail, she let out a painful cry. Because she was worried about being discovered, she swallowed the moan abruptly. Ryan hurriedly hugged Elia to comfort. The masked man seemed to notice, carrying a knife and standing above the floor, after Ryan waited for the footsteps above to go further and further away. He quickly helped Elia pull out the nail that pierced the palm and tore the fabric of his own clothes to bandage Elia's wound. After the two successfully escaped the house, they quickly walked towards the tool shed nearby. Ryan was accidentally tripped by a stone during the escape. Not only did the ankle sprain, but also lost the life-saving medicine. It was completely dark inside, and it was impossible to see the layout inside at all. Fortunately, Elia carried a lighter with her. However, a masked man was standing behind them, but they didn't notice it at all. After Ryan got a pickaxe, he instructed Elia to sit near the window and guard. He then walked into the second floor through a small staircase. Elia suddenly found that there was someone shaking outside the window. Suddenly, the window glass shattered. The man in the hood reached in through the gap and strangled Elia's neck. Fortunately, Ryan came with a shotgun at the critical moment. After he drove the two gangsters away, he hurriedly comforted Elia. After having the shotgun, they began to walk into the two rooms side by side. Ryan sensed that there was a person in the corridor by listening to the sound and positioning. She signaled Elia to stay where she was. Then Ryan tiptoed to the corridor. After a gunshot, when Elia went over to check, suddenly found that the deceased didn't wear a mask. There was also a maintenance tool beside it. She immediately realized that Ryan had killed the wrong person. Elia called the owner of the house, asked her to come and repair the refrigerator. Now the two are completely dumbfounded. The couple didn't care that much either. Ryan picked up the key of the homeowner, ready to take Elia and run away. Ryan didn't forget to bring the shotgun before leaving. After the two Saturday in the car, suddenly the side window of the car was smashed by a masked man. Fortunately, Ryan started the car in time, and just when the two thought they had escaped, they directly crashed the two people's car into a tree. Then there were successive violent collisions. The two people whose car doors were stuck couldn't get out of the car at this time. Elia didn't want to wait to die and climbed out of the window. When she was about to pull Ryan out, she found that Ryan's feet were stuck. Elia could only escape alone. Ryan raised his shotgun at this time and was ready to have a showdown with the man in the hood. When Ryan warily patrolled around, the man in the hood suddenly appeared and smashed the windshield in front of Ryan. Ryan took the opportunity to fire a shot and scared the bald men away. He hurriedly used the gun but to destroy the broken windshield. Then he struggled to pull out his stuck legs. He immediately held the shotgun and walked forward warily. Elia ran into the dense forest. The masked man is approaching step by step. She hid in a deadwood and successfully avoided the search of the masked man. Elia hurriedly called the police. Fortunately, the signal was strong at this time. The phone was connected quickly. Suddenly, the phone's signal was interfered. Elia could only raise her arm to try to find the signal, but suddenly found the skeleton that had been eaten by insects beside. Elia endured the urge to scream as the signal was completely cut off. Elia could only leave here and move on, but was ambushed by the masked man. The masked man knocked Elia unconscious after dragging her forward slowly. At this time, Ryan was aimlessly looking for Elia. Don't know that he has been targeted yet. The call of the man in the hood attracted his attention. At this time, he had some signs of illness, so he immediately hid beside the stump and tried to slow his breathing. Ryan suddenly found a plastic bottle beside him. He immediately poured out the water in the bottle, then twisted the bottle into a twist, then blew into the mouth of the bottle in a big gulp. After waiting for the symptoms to ease, he got up again. He used a diversionary tactic to circle behind the masked man, and then held the gun barrel against the other's head and forced him to put down the knife, and turned around and questioned about the whereabouts of Elia. Suddenly the other laughed wildly, but unexpectedly, the masked man came over and directly knocked him unconscious. When the two woke up, they were back in the wooden cabin again. They were tied together. Both Ryan and Elia couldn't help but shed tears when Ryan took this opportunity to propose to Elia and got the affirmative reply from the other side. Ryan's kidney was directly stabbed after the masked man kicked the seriously injured Ryan down. He immediately spat out blood and closed his eyes. Elia couldn't help but shed painful tears as she watched Ryan die in front of her. Elia realized that she had no chance of survival. After she cursed the murderers, she was sentenced to death. Suddenly they heard the police siren approaching from far and near and hurriedly drove away. Elia saved a life because of timely rescue. This man noticed something eerie while flying on a plane. His thumbnail suddenly turned black. Then the water bottle in his hand started to quickly deflate. A sense of foreboding washed over him. At the same time, a flight attendant on the other side also noticed something unusual. She immediately sat her down in a passenger seat and yelled for everyone to fasten their seat belts. Sure enough, the plane experienced severe turbulence the next second. Thankfully, after some intense shaking, the plane stabilized again. They thought they had avoided a disaster, not knowing this was just the beginning of the incident. A middle-aged passenger in the back suddenly felt unwell and started breathing heavily. The flight attendant quickly went over to check on him, but the man couldn't speak a word. Nick, who was a doctor, rushed over, but even he had never seen such symptoms before. Soon, the man started vomiting blood and screaming uncontrollably before losing all signs of life. The captain notified San Francisco Airport and confirmed the identity of the deceased passenger. Since this was an international long-haul flight, the plane still had over 8 hours to go. To calm the remaining passengers, the captain decided to clear out the upper deck of the economy class to temporarily place the body there. However, as the crew carried the body upstairs, a long-haired man stared at the dead man's watch. The flight attendants covered the body with a blanket and fastened the seatbelt. Not long after, when a flight attendant was serving tea, she suddenly found a tooth on the deceased's chair. She remembered that the man had been desperately clawing at his mouth before he died. Just then, steam from the teapot passed over the seat, revealing a bloody handprint on the armrest. The cup on the table started shaking again, and the plane was hit by another bout of turbulence. Before anyone could react, someone was thrown from their seat. A woman using the restroom was flown to the ceiling. Oxygen masks dropped down quickly. The woman tried to get out but couldn't open the side door. Some people who couldn't put on their masks in time had already lost consciousness. Nick held his breath and helped a mother and daughter put on their oxygen masks. Fortunately, after a series of critical situations, the plane stabilized once more and the oxygen levels returned to normal. The captain then informed everyone that a storm had damaged a seal, causing a pressure issue in the cabin. The only solution was to lower the plane's altitude to ensure sufficient oxygen. A flight attendant promptly found an unconscious girl in the restroom. She immediately brought oxygen and revived the girl. After 2 consecutive crises, everyone was on edge. However, the bizarre events that followed were even more terrifying. First, a girl watching a movie saw a horrifying scene reflected on her laptop screen. Meanwhile, the long-haired man, unnoticed by others, sneaked to the upper deck. The dead man's skin was starting to rot, but the man didn't mind at all. He took off the watch and even proudly recorded his actions on his phone. The flight attendant was working when she noticed something terrifying. There seemed to be something outside the plane's window. Curious, she went to the window to take a closer look. To her shock, she saw a fighter jet flying alongside the passenger plane. She thought her eyes were playing tricks on her, as though she didn't pay much attention to it. Meanwhile, Nick also noticed something strange while watching a movie. The movie suddenly switched to another scene. A mysterious man was walking on the wing of the plane. On the other side, the flight attendant noticed that the long-haired man was missing. A nearby female passenger said he seemed to have gone to the upper deck. So, the 2 flight attendants cautiously went upstairs. Strangely, they couldn't find the long-haired man or the dead body. The 2 women were terrified. They immediately ran to report the situation to the captain. 1 living person and 1 dead person. Could they have escaped by jumping out of a window? Suddenly, a girl in the restroom noticed a wisp of white smoke coming from under her feet. The dead man was crawling up from the floor. Soon, all the passengers learned that someone was missing on the plane. They all started helping to look for the missing person. Nick unexpectedly found the dead man's suitcase. Inside, there were several samples of women's hair. Each hair sample likely represented a deceased girl. Next, they discovered a strange wooden box. When they opened it, they found a frightening doll inside. According to the instructions, they learned it was a Grim Reaper doll. The deceased man worked in this industry. Sally, standing nearby, seemed to understand this culture well. She told everyone that in Japanese mythology, the Grim Reaper is another term for the angel of death. Only by letting go of the past can one face everything calmly. The girl continued explaining for a long time. Everyone listened in horror. Unable to find the missing person, the flight attendant decided to check the storage compartment. She carefully climbed down the ladder. After searching for a while, she found a large suitcase. She inexplicably decided to open the zipper. Oh my God! Another flight attendant heard something unusual. She turned around and saw white smoke coming from the storage compartment. The scream attracted everyone's attention. When they reached the upper deck, they saw the flight attendant standing there in fear. They panicked and ran downstairs. Only Sally seemed to realize something. She sat on the floor, staring ahead. Strangely, a girl who looked exactly like her walked toward her. Meanwhile, the others discovered the cockpit door was open. They opened it and were instantly terrified by what they saw. The captain and co-pilot had long lost consciousness. They also found the dead girl in the restroom. They had no idea what had happened. They quickly returned to the cabin they were sitting in. It suddenly dawned on them that another dead version of themselves was sitting in their seats. It turned out they had already lost their lives in that storm. At this moment, Sally's words echoed in their ears again. The plane's TV was broadcasting the news. A spokesperson was telling reporters that Flight 7500 had encountered severe turbulence on its way to Tokyo. It soon lost contact with the ground. They suspected the turbulence caused a seal to break, leading to rapid depressurization in the cabin. This resulted in a tragic disaster. Since the plane still had 5 hours of fuel left, they sent fighter jets to track the passenger plane. Unfortunately, they found no signs of life. Upon hearing this, everyone finally understood everything, but it was too late. They could only accept this tragic reality. The man intentionally spread his legs, using his body as bait to lure the wolf pack. When the Wolf King led the pack to approach, the man pretended to be scared and waved his hands to drive them away. But in reality, he secretly activated a preset trap. As the Wolf King charged, the noose suddenly tightened, hoisting the Wolf King into the air. Struggling simultaneously, a CIA Predator drone tracked the man via thermal signals, ready to launch a missile at him. In the snow, the man quickly chased away the remaining wolves, then tackled the Wolf King to the ground. Grabbing its neck to incapacitate it, he pried open the wolf's mouth with a small stick and spat a locator into its throat. As he ran to a safe distance, the drone operator fired a heat-seeking missile. With a loud explosion, fire erupted behind Alan, killing the Wolf King instantly. However, as a top agent, Alan realized the real danger had just begun. The CIA had genetically modified all its agents, requiring them to take two special pills weekly, a blue pill for enhanced physical abilities and a green pill to boost brain function. These pills granted agents extraordinary strength and agility, enabling them to withstand extreme cold and leap across vast chasms. Once ready, the CIA deployed these agents to steal foreign intelligence. This notorious project was known as the Human Black Rose Project. When a journalist uncovered the CIA's sinister plan, he exposed the truth on television. To erase all traces of the Black Rose Project, the CIA distributed yellow poison pills to all gene-modified agents, claiming they were an upgraded version of the blue and green pills. The agents, trusting the CIA, swallowed the pills as usual, and without exception, they all died. Alan, meanwhile, was undergoing isolated training in the mountains with his team, but it couldn't escape the CIA's drone strike. As Alan ventured out to scout, he spotted the Predator drone and instantly knew he was caught in a high-level conspiracy. To uncover the truth, he had to evade the drone's pursuit, aware that the CIA had implanted trackers in all agents. Alan knew he was a target. He dashed into the mountains, climbed to a high point, and removed his conspicuous jacket. Using a frying pan and tinfoil, he wrapped his fight to block the tracker signal. The CIA quickly noticed his tracker signal vanish and switched to remote surveillance to locate Alan. Taking advantage of the confusion, Alan set up a sniper rifle, fired 2 shots at the drone's engine, causing it to crash into the valley. Expecting another drone to follow, Alan prepared a trap. When the tracker was inside the wolf's mouth, the drone targeted it and fired a heat-seeking missile, obliterating the wolf and deceiving the CIA. Returning to his cabin, Alan found all his spare pills destroyed in the explosion. Without the pills, his strength and intellect would drastically decline within a week, eventually leaving him comatose. Recalling his participation in CIA drug experiments, he decided to risk returning to the lab to find more pills. However, the lab had been purged, and the agents forced Shirley to fake her suicide. As the enemy pulled the trigger, Alan burst in. The enemy opened fire, forcing Shirley to the attic while Alan dashed to the basement. The enemy split up to pursue them. Alan found a fire extinguisher, jammed a nail into the nozzle, and ambushed the enemy, knocking them out with the extinguisher spray. After dealing with the enemy, he climbed to the second floor, rescuing Shirley. Knowing the CIA would soon erase the scene, he doused the house with gasoline and set it ablaze, faking their deaths. Shirley was shocked to learn Alan was seeking the blue and green pills. Alan quickly understood the CIA's control scheme. If the green pills could be replaced with a virus, the blue brain-enhancing pills must also have an alternative. Shirley confirmed his suspicion but revealed that a day earlier, CIA assassins disguised as researchers had kidnapped the lab staff. Their only chance was to reach a pharmaceutical plant in the Philippines to find a substitute virus for the blue pill. Alan forged fake passports, and they boarded a flight to the Philippines. The enemy, monitoring airport footage, identified them and dispatched top assassins to pursue them. At the pharmaceutical plant, unaware of the danger, Shirley, posing as a researcher, brought Alan inside and injected him with the substitute virus. But the enemy alerted the plant, ordering them to stop Alan. Though it was already too late, the virus caused unforeseen side effects. As they prepared to leave, the CIA ordered the plant guards to intercept them. Realizing their cover was blown, Alan subdued the guards and escaped with Shirley. The guards sealed all exits, and Shirley's access card was deactivated. Alan broke into the production area, shot the power supply, causing chaos, and escaped with Shirley in the crowd. The enemy believed they couldn't have gone far. Alan soon experienced severe side effects, falling into a feverish delirium. Shirley hid him in a motel and went to buy medicine. She saw the enemy heading to the motel and tried to warn Alan by shouting from the street, but she couldn't get close. Alan, barely conscious, heard her and climbed over the wall to the roof. The assassin was the most successful product of the CIA's gene modification program, a heartless killing machine. Alan, still recovering, avoided confrontation, grabbed a motorcycle, and sped into traffic with Shirley. Trying to lose the assassin, the killer seized a police car and gave chase. The boy in front of us is a genius. He actually calculated the answer to 3 multiplied by 9 is 3. After finishing, he showed off to the top student behind him. The teacher was somewhat speechless. She asked him to read the content on the test paper. The teacher felt insulted. She kicked him out. But what the teacher didn't know was that the boy wasn't lying. In his eyes, the letters really danced. The classmates regarded him as an oddity. They coldly laughed and ridiculed him. The teacher said he was mentally retarded because she suffered from severe dyslexia. The maximum score he got on a 20-point test paper was 2. After returning home, his mother asked him how many points he got on the test. He deliberately blew on the drink in his hand and pretended not to hear. Although Ethan had a congenital defect, he had a nimble thinking for painting. Unfortunately, his parents and teachers only recognized the current academic performance. They completely disregarded Ethan's painting talent. One day, Ethan was playing under a tree with his dog. The big kids nearby asked him to pick up the ball. Ethan accidentally threw the ball outside. The other person rushed over and beat him up. He could only run to the rooftop alone and secretly shed tears. But what he didn't expect was that the other person actually filed a complaint first, and his father, without asking the situation clearly, slapped him in the face. Ethan came forward to argue but was yanked back by his father and thrown to the ground. He just kept complaining about Ethan's mischief. The father raised his hand again and Ethan left. He had no idea how dark Ethan's world was. The next day, as soon as he went to school, Ethan was made to stand aside by the teacher just because his shoes weren't clean. During class, the teacher asked Ethan to read the text. He seriously said that the letters were dancing. The classmates burst into laughter. The teacher felt that her intelligence was insulted. She kicked him out of the classroom. Ethan felt abandoned by the whole world. He walked out of the classroom with his school bag and played truant. This was the first time he saw the outside world, looking at other children sitting on their father's shoulders. It's a pity that in her father's eyes, only grades mattered. After that, he got on the bus again. He spread his arms and felt the gentle breeze coming towards him. At night, Ethan asked his elder brother to help write an absence note for skipping class. The teacher didn't suspect. After all, Ethan couldn't even recognize the letters. But in the end, Ethan admitted the fact that he played truant. The next day, his father took him back to school and voluntarily admitted the mistake. The teacher said in front of his parents that there was something wrong with his brain. The principal suggested that Ethan go to a special school. The father couldn't bear to listen anymore. He didn't think it was possible, but rather a problem with Ethan's learning attitude. He said he was going to send him to a boarding school. Ethan was afraid of being far away from his family. He cried and begged his father not to send him to a boarding school, but his father still sent him away, looking at the direction where his parents left. Ethan burst into tears. This would be the darkest days of his life. When he first came here, he felt strange about everything. When he really couldn't hold back his tears and wanted to cry, he would run to the bathroom alone, but after crying, he had to digest it alone. The same was true for his mother at home. When she missed her son, she would take out Ethan's previous paintings and look at them. In the paintings, Ethan was getting farther and farther away from his family until he disappeared from the drawing book. It was only then that the mother realized her negligence towards Ethan. Ethan didn't make any progress when he came here. Instead, he became more scared and self-abased and refused to contact anyone. The classmates laughed at him for being stupid. Gradually, Ethan began to resist studying and threw all his books into the trash can until a new art teacher pulled Ethan back on track from the brink of collapse. The funny entrance made the classmates burst into laughter. Soon, he mingled with the children and entered the world of children, but Ethan sat motionless on the desk. He seemed unable to feel the happiness around him. Then Nick gave each of them a blank sheet of paper. Let the children give full play to their wild imagination and draw whatever they wanted. This was his unique and free educational method. Half an hour later, the classmates more or less drew out what they loved in their hearts, but Ethan's drawing paper was still as white as snow. Nick smiled and asked Ethan why he was still in a daze. Ethan was too scared to answer, but Nick touched his head. At night, his mother called her. She said she couldn't go to the school to see her this week because his elder brother was going to participate in a tennis match. The tears in Ethan's eyes couldn't help flowing out. He didn't speak, put down the phone, and left sadly. This day, Ethan was kicked out of the classroom again. Nick saw this. Nick asked him to stand up and go back to the classroom, but Ethan was too scared and hid aside. Nick knew that there was something wrong with Ethan's psychology, but he didn't know what caused it. Nick seemed to understand something. He found Ethan's homework book and it was just as he thought. It wasn't that Ethan was too stupid to learn, but that he wrote the letters backward. This is the most common phenomenon of dyslexia. He came to Ethan's home. He told his parents about Ethan's situation at school and questioned why they sent Ethan to a boarding school. He said that Ethan had repeated the 3rd grade for 2 years, and his eldest son was the top student in the class every year. In his consciousness, this was a problem with Ethan's learning attitude. Nick immediately stopped his idea. He took out Ethan's homework from his bag and pointed out the problem. He wrote BSD and DSB. Ethan always mixed up similar letters. This is called mirroring, and it was difficult for Ethan, who had dyslexia, to distinguish these letters. However, the father thought Nick was talking nonsense. He also said that these were all excuses for Ethan not wanting to study. Seeing him so stubborn, Nick was also desperate. At this time, Nick took a toy box full of Japanese writing and placed it in front of Ethan's father and asked him to read it aloud. He suddenly understood. The father finally realized how stupid he was. Even he couldn't stand it, let alone Ethan. No one knew how he survived. His confidence had been completely destroyed. Before, he could only use rebellion to cover up his inability, but now, even his courage to rebel was completely destroyed by the boarding school. His mother burst into tears after listening. The father lowered his head in shame. After returning to school, the children told a story. He said there was a little boy. No matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't learn because the letters danced in his eyes. Studying was killing him, but who could understand his difficulties? But suddenly one day, the whole world was amazed by his theory. Ethan thought Teacher Nick was talking about himself. He didn't dare to look up. Teacher Nick took out a portrait. He was the great genius scientist Einstein. He shocked the world with the theory of relativity. Then Nick asked Ethan to turn on the light at the classroom door. When Ethan pressed the switch, Nick raised a question.